This is Blackstone Joe, and you're listening to Slick Talk.
If I say I'm an oil man, you will agree.
There's the stink of oil about him.
Hello and welcome into Slick Talk. I'm your host, Blackstone Joe, and I'm glad you're here. At Blackstone, we understand that nobody wants to hear their engine has a problem. But the thing is, an analyst doesn't really want to say that either unless we have to. The way we get there is first dialing in our processes, and if there's nothing awry on our end, the next step is making sure that the owner doesn't have any surrounding factors on their side that might influence a high level. Things like wear-in, or the possibility of contamination during the sampling process, or maybe a mix-up of some other kind. Owners sending in multiple samples at a time, maybe they switched up which one was from which vehicle, but if we can't find any possible exception to why there's been an increase or high levels to start out with, signs of contamination, that is when we will finally take the step of calling a spade and saying this looks like a problem to us. I had one particular instance recently where a high level just bugged me to the point that I want to check a sample multiple times and then look for any possible exception on the owner's side. This one involved a sample from an ISX 15. The thing was, we found a lot of lead. And it's not like an ISX 15 is impervious to bearing issues. It's just that we don't see them very often. We've seen thousands of samples from this particular engine type, and I couldn't find many where we found this amount of lead, a high level that wasn't just unusual for how high it was, but we also were looking at a fairly low mileage engine. This one was sitting at just over 300,000 miles, and it had a lot of lead. And we just don't see this amount of lead in general, but even more so, a bearing issue in a fairly young diesel like this one was even more unusual. I could only find about 50 some samples that had a lead level in this ballpark with fewer than 400K on the odometer. It's just not very common. Something else that stuck out to me was how good the rest of the sample looked. A bearing problem in this engine could show up as high lead, but also copper and tin. Both copper and tin looked perfectly fine. In fact, other metals did too. And you can see high iron when there's a bearing problem as well from supporting steel shafts. This one just had a high lead level, and I mean just, because going beyond the wear metals, we also found the oil in really good shape physically. It didn't appear to be a bad product by any stretch. It had all the additive that you expect in a diesel engine oil that's API certified, nothing irregular there. We also weren't seeing any signs of contamination. We looked for the usual suspects that can hit the bearings, like coolant contamination. There wasn't any sign of that. We also didn't find any detectable water, which, when coolant is present, even after the water has burnt off, you can see signs of it in the spectral exam. There was none of that. We didn't see any measurable fuel. It looked like oil filtration was doing well because insolubles were low. We weren't seeing an issue with viscosity. I mean, we're trying to turn over every stone possible to figure out, okay, if this engine is wearing poorly at the bearings, why? And there's not a possible explanation in terms of contamination, and the oil filter, both of those appear to be holding up well. So what gives? And there's only one left field possibility that I want to throw out there, which was the potential for contamination during the sampling process. Now, it's rare for lead to be introduced that way, but it's one that I want to acknowledge because under this particular account, there have been engines sampled before that were running leaded fuel. Okay, so here's the scenario, basically. If it's possible, maybe there was an engine running lead fuel, they did an oil change, and then they dropped the pan, this particular instance, and then drain that oil into a dirty pan. Maybe lead is from that. I don't know. Even that situation feels a little far-fetched as I lay it out, but this is a customer that sent in samples, again, that were from engines running leaded fuel. Maybe there's been a mix-up somewhere along the way, but I don't have the facts either on the oil information slip to prove that. We can't assume it. So we have to proceed as though this engine is wearing more than it should at the bearings. I guess there's reason for some optimism as well, given that other bearing metals, copper and tin, are not excessive and we're not finding high iron either. But I think this is a good example to bring up on the show because people need to know that a lab is not only dialing in their processes, but taking care to ensure that there's been no possible exceptions in terms of the sampling conditions that might be affecting this. If it's not contamination introduced during sampling, then maybe there's a possibility of this engine having some recent work that we don't know about. But again, with how good the rest of the sample looked, that's far from a sure thing either. We can see signs of wear in, but in this case, there wasn't a high silicon level that would be likely if there was recent use of sealer or lube, for example. So I wouldn't be in a great spot to assume this was a wear-in situation either. We would need to see more. It's possible, but not a given. So it's not something that in the analyst chair you can just assume, okay, well, everything else looks good metal-wise, so perhaps it's just wear-in. That's not the right approach. We can acknowledge the possibility of wear-in if the owner follows up and says, well, I forgot to mention, we swapped in new bearings, didn't tell you. Okay, maybe we're seeing wear in, but still, it's unusual to see this amount of lead even during a wear in situation. So that is when we finally arrived after checking the sample multiple times even, because I was looking at this for a while and just flummoxed by how good the rest of this sample looked. If there is a full-fledged bearing issue, which is fair to assume when you see lead off the charts serving as the dominant metal, I want to go the next step and check this sample. In this case, we ran the spectral exam multiple times just to dial in that lead level, and unfortunately, it's high over and over, and it's consistent too. We're seeing about the same level in part per million each go, and everything else looks great. So unfortunately, that is when we finally arrived at the point where we have to send out a comment saying this looks like poor bearing wear. Not just a little more than average, not just a level that seems like, we'll keep an eye on it, but we do have to proceed with caution. The owner needs to be monitoring for things like low oil pressure, knocking sounds, because that would be added evidence and a strong case that the engine is indeed wearing poorly. Now, if we do end up finding out that there's been contamination during the sampling process somewhere along the way, then perhaps this is situational. But I wanted to bring this scenario up as an example to showcase that when we do see something abnormal, we're going to go the extra mile. We're going to make sure that we're doing things right, both from a testing standpoint as well as an analysis standpoint when we have the result in hand, trying to factor in possible explanations. Because when you have a high metal, of course, it's possible that's excess wear. That is always going to be on the table. But we understand that engines have the ability to bounce back. High levels can be situational. When you have a wear-in situation, when you have levels that are introduced or affected by the sampling process, whatever the case may be, we understand that high metals do not necessarily mean they are here to stay. If we do not prescribe the appropriate amount of caution when these high levels stand out, then we're doing the owner a disservice, because not only are we finding high levels, we aren't giving them the explanation that best prepares them for what to do next. In this case, better to have the caution, better to understand that excess wear is certainly on the table than ignore it and go on, and then all of a sudden that copper and tin that we weren't finding does start showing up from the secondary layer, and they start getting the iron, and then we're looking at even more expense. But here, we took the steps of confirming the data, confirming what all information we had available to us as is, and then we have to write the comment and send it out. So we understand that no one taking their sample is sending it off with hopes that we are going to say that there's trouble. But when we do send out a bad set of results, it's done after taking into account the reasonable explanations. And that way, you know where things stand. And hopefully, we can find a better resolution going forward, a better outcome than a problem. But knowing what's possible and proceeding with what the likely scenario is, that's how you're able to put yourself in the best position from a maintenance standpoint. And of course, it's by correcting those issues that you can keep the engine on the road, and then we can do what we most want to do, which is tell you your engine is doing well, that your maintenance plan is covering the bases. It's easier to write a good report, and we want to send you all the reassurance that what you're doing is working well. That brings today's show to a close. Thanks so much for hanging with me. This is Blackstone Joe, signing off.
The Slick Talk podcast is powered by Blackstone Laboratories. If you're ready to start your oil analysis journey, visit blackstone-labs.com to order your free test kit.